You know what the Democrats really need? And I'm not joking about this. They need a lot more coked up Hunter Bidens.
Oh my God.
Hey everybody, I'm Steve Green with Bill Whittle and Scott Ott. This is Right Angle, brought to you by the members of BillWhittle.com. Gentlemen, I don't know if you watched any of Hunter Biden's 3-hour-long DUI wreck of an interview he did with Andrew Callaghan. He's a Gen Z podcasting guy. Now, I'm not going to make any direct legally questionable accusations that Biden was actually coked up like John Belushi in a Studio 54 men's room at around 4 a.m. But I did ask a retired expert in the field of cocaine consumption to give me his best guess on how much blow went up Biden's nose before and during that really long interview. And he said to me, you know that scene from Scarface? So I'm just going to leave it at that.
He claims to have been clean and sober for 6 years.
Well,
who can trust who can doubt the integrity? Did he give you his word as a Biden?
Wait. Did he say in a row?
Well, that's a fair question.
Yeah, okay. But the guy not just sat down for a 3-hour interview, but he dropped some truth bombs, which, is incredibly rare in politics. There was a lot of excuse mongering about, how his dad was the best president of the world and all that stuff. But listen to this. On Hollywood Phonies, he said, he dropped a lot of F-bombs with the truth bombs, so I'll clean this up.
Yeah.
On the Hollywood Phonies, it said, George Clooney is not an effing actor. He is a effing, I don't know what he is. He's a brand.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And that's because Clooney said that he didn't think that Joe Biden recognized him at a party, and then Clooney later published that story before the election.
Yeah, so just did a little tiny fragile egos on these people. On all those aging Bill Clinton and Barack Obama hands, we keep just hanging around. I love this. Hunter Biden said, James Carville, who hasn't run a race in 40 effing years, and David Axelrod, who had one success in his political life, and that was Barack Obama. And that was because of Barack Obama, not because of effing David Axelrod.
Yeah.
Seriously, I'm starting to love this guy. And on the senior Democrats who defenestrated Joe Biden, Hunter said what they proved, what the Democratic Party proved, is they have no guts. Bill, coked up or not, Hunter Biden sat down for the kind of freewheeling, truth-telling, long-form interview that Kamala Harris wouldn't and couldn't during the presidential race.
That is a fair statement. That really is a fair statement. And even though he was
Hunter's not running for anything, though.
No, this is where I disagree. Because the only I just saw just a couple fragments, but there was one fragment, and I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into this, but if I recall correctly, there was one fragment where he says, so say somebody were to come along in 2028, let's say I were to be president in 2028, and then he goes on and on about all these other things, and I thought, isn't that an interesting word selection? Yeah, it just goes to show you that a coked out drug addict, loser, prostitute endorsing, D-bag is capable of a much more coherent defense of political positions than the official Democratic Party nominee. I didn't like Hunter Biden before that interview, and after the interview, I liked him a lot less.
That's fair. Yes,
he really is a vile and deeply, deeply, deeply damaged guy. And the one thing that I kept coming back to was, wow, the kind of insights and the kind of wizened statesmanship that Joe Biden that Hunter Biden exhibits has got to be worth $750,000 a year to any company on the planet. They're gonna go into debt to get that kind of mind on their team.
Bill, you remember when Barack Obama selected Joe Biden for his running mate in 2008 because, and this is the word Obama used, of the gravitas Biden would bring to the ticket?
Yep.
I think Hunter has that same gravitas. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's a bargain at $750,000 a year. And
he even went after Rahm Emanuel.
Oh, yeah.
and basically saying, are you effing kidding me? This is like, and it was just thinking about Rahm Emanuel as a potential presidential candidate is just everything that's wrong with the Democratic Party, because they keep going back to the Clinton well and trying to resurrect an era that will never recur. While at the same time, as Steve said,
was an Obama hand, not Clinton.
Oh, was he Obama's land?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's terrible. I
He's
lumped them
the guy
together.
who Obama brought along in
He was
2008,
chief of staff.
who said of the financial crisis at the time, never let a crisis go to waste.
It seems like that was so much longer ago.
I know, right? We're getting old, man.
Yeah.
Anyway, were you done? Because I do have a question for you.
Oh, please.
Yeah. So I don't know if you remember this, but Jake Tapper ripped Biden back in May for being, and this is a quote, provably, demonstrably unethical, sleazy, and prone to horrible decisions. But I'm a giver, and I think Hunter deserves credit for going 3 hours without a Russian hooker on his lap. And Scott, do you think it's time for Democrat voters to give him a first, or maybe this is a second look?
I did think when I was reading the story about these interviews, I didn't watch any of the parts of the interviews because, frankly, I considered the story to be fair warning. Like, when I read that and I thought, okay, I get it. I don't need to look at this. But, when you're talking, the whole political landscape has changed. And in many ways, because of the election of Donald Trump, who would, at any other time in history would have been considered just an unbelievable long shot. Nobody would think that he could, run the table on a field of what at least the beginning looked like highly qualified candidates for the presidency in his first go round. So I wouldn't rule out a guy, if not Hunter himself, a guy like Hunter, because he has emerged from all of this not only defended by his father, but virtually unscathed. And there were a couple of Twitter Democrats who said, Hunter Biden just said in 5 minutes what I've been thinking for 5 years. It's like he just rattled off every complaint that insiders had with their own party. We are talking about a guy, however, who apparently hooked up with his dead brother's widow and did coke.
He's so skeevy.
Did coke with her and was romantically involved. You always picture like they're canoeing around one of those little lakes in
he
Central Park.
He shyly brought her flowers on some rainy evening.
But their first argument was who got the last line off the mirror.
Yeah. Well, that's the kind of White House we can look forward to in the Hunter Biden era. If it weren't for Joe Biden, we never would have heard of Hunter Biden. If it weren't for Barack Obama, very few of us would have heard of Joe Biden, even though he served for many years. The way Joe Biden is being lionized now, as if he was one of the Washingtonian figures in American political history, just stuns me. Like I never saw it. I never looked at him as having gravitas. I never thought, wow, this guy's really credible. He always seemed just kind of like,
dumbest guy in the Senate. Yep.
Your goofy uncle who, you could wondered how he kept a job. But anyway, I do think we have entered a political era where a guy like Hunter Biden could get elected to something. I also thought it was interesting when Hunter was, enraged that the Democratic Party threw his dad out, basically. And he said, look, they were looking for somebody who could win blue-collar workers and blacks, and they ejected the guy who had a track record of doing so. And I thought that was a fair criticism.
Yeah.
They wound up with Kamala Harris, who had no ability to attract either.
Well, Tim Walz was the guy she hired to cover that flank.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Governor Jazz Hands did not win back any male voters.
That's right. With his pink Stanley thermos.
Oh, Lord. What a race that was. Okay, kids, all jokes aside, I love it when anybody just even close to politics drops a good truth bomb, because they're usually so scripted and there's so many lies and misdirections and all the rest. But Hunter Biden is the same guy who said during this interview of Kamala Harris, he said, I truly love her like family, and I think that she would have made an incredible president. So just let me say this. Drugs are bad, okay? All right, that's your right angle on that. I apologize for nothing. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.